Excellent. All right. My name is Lucas Jensen. I'm a planner too with video, and I thank you guys for taking some time out of your days to attend the Q&A session for our accessory dwelling unit design challenge. We're really excited to be hosting this and to have you guys all here to potentially submit some designs to us. I do want to note just before we begin that this session is intended for designers and for architects looking to submit designs to the challenge. If for whatever reason there are members of the community that registered for the event, you're more than welcome to hang out and listen to the conversation. If you do have any questions, I do ask that you send them through the adump@tempe.gov email. We'll get back to you as soon as we can on them, and we're happy to answer any questions. We just want to make sure we have enough time to answer questions about the submittals while we've dedicated this time for their questions. If questions come up during this meeting, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the chat. We'll have someone moderating that. If they're able to answer those questions, they'll do so. At the end of the meeting, we'll go ahead and run through those questions and kind of go through those to expand on those any further or to clarify anything that you guys might need clarification on in those questions. All right, on the agenda is an overview of accessory dwelling units, their benefits, and what Tempe's regulations are. We're also going to talk about the details of the design challenge. Then we'll jump into the next steps, including how to submit, the timeline, and then have some time to answer questions from you all. As you may know, an accessory dwelling unit, it's an independent and rentable dwelling unit located on the same lot as an existing single-family home. ADUs do provide their own kitchen, their own bathroom, and own sleeping facilities in the unit. Numerous benefits to an ADU. One of those is to provide supplemental income to homeowners. It can increase the supply of naturally occurring affordable housing across the city. Also provides flexibility for multi-generational living and allows aging in place. And the added benefit is that ADUs are often compatible with the scale of these existing single-family neighborhoods in which they're placed. Tempe's regulations for ADUs, they are permitted on all residential properties that have an existing single-family home. Our current regulations allow one attached, one detached, for a total of 2 on lots that are less than 1 acre in size, and an additional third detached unit that's restricted affordable on lots larger than 1 acre. For purposes of this design challenge, we are looking specifically at detached designs. In regards to the height and size allowances, they are permitted as a single story and cannot exceed the height of the zoning district. Typically, this is 30 feet in most zoning districts that allow for residential use. We do allow second story additions with a use permit, but for purposes of the design challenge, we are accepting only single story design submittals. The maximum livable floor area is 75% of the main dwelling or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less. You'll see the graphic on the right-hand side shows for lots less than 1 acre. That 75% for a 1,200 square foot residence would mean you're limited to a 900 square foot ADU, so a little bit smaller than that 1,000 square foot maximum size. And then if you have a larger residence on the site, then you would be permitted to that maximum 1,000 square feet. Again, for this design challenge, we are looking at submittals that are 1,000 square feet or less. The lot coverage, it will be the same as the zoning district. Our most common zoning district is an R16, a single family zoning district, and the lot coverage there is 45%. So that's one of the more common ones you'll see throughout the city. We also do not allow more than 3 bedrooms in the ADU for lots under 1 acre. If the site is larger than 1 acre, then there's no limit on the bedroom count for accessory dwelling units. The setbacks for ADUs are fairly simple. They cannot be placed in the front yard setback. That will be dictated by the zoning district standards in Tempe Zoning and Development Code. The rear, side, and street side setbacks are 5 feet. Now, this gets us into why we're here. The City of Tempe Community Development Department was awarded a $20,000 grant by AARP specifically to host this accessory dwelling unit design challenge with the intent of building a library of ADU standard plans to provide to residents. As part of the process, we're going to select up to 10 winning designs to have their plan featured in the standard plan library and receive up to a $2,000 award in addition to having the plan review fees waived. So it's very exciting to be partnering with AARP on this one. Some of the details of our design challenge, I know that's a lot of the questions you'll have for us right now. I want to give an overview of the competition, what our submittal categories are, the criteria, the submission details, and then go over that timeline before we get towards the end of the presentation for questions. If you do want more information on this, many of you may have seen our website, tempe.gov/ADU design challenge, where you'll find helpful links to a lot of this information. An overview of this challenge. So again, up to 10 designs will be selected and awarded with up to $2,000 and have those standard plan review fees waived. These standard plans are going to be displayed in an online gallery on the city webpage. And submissions for this are going to be due on August 13th, that's a Wednesday, by 11:59 p.m. After that point, we'll move into the jury evaluation and winning designs will be selected and designers will be notified mid to late September. There's numerous benefits to the designers, to you guys looking to participate in this. Designs that are selected through this design challenge may be awarded up to $2,000. They may have their plan review fees waived for standard plan review. And then you'll also have your design listed in that online ADU standard plan library. The one caveat is the licensing fees on the webpage are limited to $5,000. So what you charge residents for the licensing fee to use the plans is capped at that $5,000 per use. The submission details, this is kind of the bare minimum criteria that need to be met for designs to be accepted. It needs to be a detached design. It needs to be a single story. It needs to be less than 30 feet in height. And it needs to be no larger than 1,000 square feet with no more than 3 bedrooms. It has to contain a kitchen, full bathroom, and sleeping area. Some of you may have looked at the application form already. On that application form, it's going to ask you to identify your submittal with one of 4 categories. The intent is so that we are able to select and provide various different ADU designs to our residents that kind of meet their different needs. The first one is the small footprint ADU. This is going to be ADUs with a footprint of 600 square feet or less. That's the total footprint. The next is our sustainable ADU, so designs that excel in providing sustainable solutions. The third is the accessible ADU, which is very important for this contest, being hosted by AARP, whose mission is to really increase livability for older adults. So these are designs that provide universal design and accessibility features throughout. The last one is our low-cost ADU, and these are our ADUs at a lower price point. You'll choose the category on the application form. You can choose just one category, but you will have the opportunity in the project narrative to provide justification as to why that was selected, and to expand on how this might meet other criteria and might even fit into other categories. But for the purposes of the application form, you need to select just one category to submit under. The evaluation criteria, so our independent jury is going to score each design that's submitted using these 5 evaluation criteria that I'll show on the following slides. Keep in mind that submittals don't need to address all of the criteria. There may be some trade-offs between aesthetics and architecture or the design of it versus the cost. And those are all things that you'll need to decide as a group when you're putting together a submittal, but keep in mind that it should provide a balance between them. That's really what we are looking for. The opportunity to highlight this is really in the narrative. If there's things that can't be shown through the plans, then your opportunity to describe how it meets these criteria is in that narrative. This gets us into the first evaluation criterion. It's aesthetics and architecture. So this is designs providing high quality, innovative, and visually appealing architecture. This can be shown in a variety of ways, and these lists are not exhaustive, but you can show this by providing a variety of building materials, variations in the building facade or building plane, or providing patios or shade attached to the ADU. The next criteria is the cost to construct. So we're looking for designs that are cost effective. Again, numerous ways to show this through the cost-effective choice of construction materials, innovative or efficient construction methods, or just through the simplicity in the design. Next is our sustainability criteria. These are designs that incorporate elements of green building codes and support sustainable strategies. Examples of how this can be shown are through passive heating and cooling, effective stormwater management, reflective roofs, and then using elements of the International Green Construction Code, specifically Chapter 5 on site sustainability and Chapter 7 on energy. Next is context and versatility. So this is making sure that the variability of the lot shape, size, location is all considered when designing the accessory dwelling unit. You can show this by demonstrating how the design can be oriented in different ways on a variety of lots, or strategically locating doors, windows, and patio features such that it would fit on multiple lots so that there's no conflicts in where those are located. In our submittal guide, there is the option to submit additional plans. Some examples of this would be sample site plans that might show multiple orientations of your design on the same lot to show how it meets that context and versatility criterion. The last criteria is accessibility. Again, one of the big ones for AARP is so this is designs that incorporate accessible elements in the building design and the floor plans. Examples could be ramped entryways, accessible counter heights, or open floor plans to allow maneuverability for folks with mobility devices. Now that we've covered the submittal categories as well as the evaluation criteria, the next step after designs are submitted is the evaluation period. So roughly a week after designs are due, August 21st to September 14th, there will be an evaluation period. And there's a few steps to this. The first step is the independent jury of local professionals and volunteers reviewing each submittal using those evaluation criteria. Concurrently, during that same timeline, we're also going to take documents submitted from each design, share those in an online survey where community members can vote for their favorite design as a way to involve the community and give them a voice in the selection of these designs. The last step is for the final selection committee to finalize decisions, and this is going to be based on the jury's evaluation, on community voting, and feasibility of the project. So those are the 3 steps to that evaluation period from August to September. How to submit. So a complete submittal needs to be attached as a single PDF document. The title should be the designer's name, the firm, whatever it is, an underscore adudesign1.pdf. That's the easiest way for us to keep track of them. If you're submitting multiple designs, you would just replace adudesign1 with adudesign2. And that's how we'll know you're submitting multiple designs there. And those can be emailed to aducomp@tempe.gov. I don't know if we'll run into this, but if file sizes are too large, you're more than welcome to use software like Dropbox or other forms to get those over to us if those file sizes don't work. And if you have any issues, just email that inbox and we can get it sorted out. For a complete submittal, there's a few things that you need, and these are all detailed in the submittal guide as well as the submittal checklist that has more details about each of these items. The first is that completed application form. The next is a 150-word project description. The way to think about this one is how you would briefly describe this to a customer. The next is the expanded project narrative. So how does this meet evaluation criteria? How does it fit within the category? The next is our cost estimates. This includes the cost of materials, construction, labor, as well as what you intend to have as the plan licensing cost. And again, this needs to be set less than $5,000. You can include previous cost estimates um, as an example for an additional document if you'd like to include additional information to show us what other projects have typically cost for your firm. We're also asking for floor plans. This is going to include the dimensions, room labels at a 1/4 inch scale. Each design can submit up to 2 floor plan options. The next is the black line and color building elevations, again at the 1/4 inch scale. This is something that's new and was just updated in our submittal guide, is that submittals may include up to 3 elevation options per design. The next one is our color perspectives and renderings, followed by the digital material sample board. So an image of the materials and finishes on the exterior. The next one is our list and description of major materials and mechanical systems. This is largely used to evaluate the sustainability criterion. And then we also give you the option to attach other plans. So this includes your floor plan options. It could be example site plans or other information that you feel is necessary to show how this meets those criteria. The timeline. So our submittals are due again Wednesday, August 13th by 11:59. Those designs get submitted as that single PDF attachment to our adump@tempe.gov email. The evaluation period follows from August 21st to September 14th, including that community voting period. And we're planning on mid to late September, there will be a notification to winning designers of the decision. Another really exciting opportunity for this design challenge is on October 21st, we're going to host an open house at Tempe's History Museum. This is where we're going to invite winning designers to share their designs, celebrate the award. We're also going to invite community members, city staff, and representatives to be involved in this process as well. So it's a really exciting opportunity to showcase your design and kind of celebrate the award. As soon as you're notified of a decision, so September through December, those winning designs are able, if directed, are able to submit for standard plan review. And then once those are approved, we'll have them featured on our webpage. The last slide here is just a list of some resources. So all of these are linked on the tempe.gov/ADU Design Challenge website that give you all of the information you should need. If you have any questions about any of the information contained in these, feel free to reach out to us. And then if you have any additional questions that come up after this or that you don't feel like you want to share, they might be too specific, project specific, feel free to email those directly to adump@tempe.gov at any time. And with that, we'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and we'll pop into the chat and see what questions have come up. If there's no questions in the chat, feel free to raise your hands and we'll just go ahead in the order that they're raised and unmute you so you can ask those questions. Hector, you should be allowed to unmute here if you wanna.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it sounded a little quiet. I don't know if anyone else.
Okay, yeah, I'll get closer to the computer here. Yeah, just two quick questions here. And I think I just saw another question come up on the cost estimate. Are you guys looking for something precise or a cost per square footage, or is this just all as long as it helps lead you to a assumption of ability? And then I have two other questions here. Is there a physical sheet number limit? For example, straightforward. Is there a landscape versus portrait mode final submittals to be?
Yeah, let me start with the cost estimate question because I know that one just came up in the chat as the first question there. Those cost estimates should be as detailed as you're able to provide. If you have an example of a project that you've done in the past, you're more than welcome to, include that information as a real example. But really, we're looking for those major points. So, what's the cost of materials? What's the estimated cost of labor? And I know all of these things can change. But to the best of your ability and as accurately as you can provide that information. Um, I hope that answers the first question there.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And then in terms of a sheet total, there's no maximum limit for the number of sheets. Um, I would just be intentional. It's a panel of jurists looking at this. I would just be respectful of their time. If there's things that you feel are genuinely valuable, most definitely include those, but um, just kind of use your discretion on what is absolutely needed and what might be extraneous, but there's no maximum limit for those sheet sizes. And then for all of the plans, we would like those 24 by 36 in landscape. And then was there one other question on that too? Sorry.
No, 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 you're good. But is it 8.5 by 11 or 24 by 36 on this?
It'll be 24 by 36 for the plans. For other sheets, so for like the narrative and other documents that are 8.5 by 11, um, those can be portrait or I mean, for like the letters and the written materials, I would do those as portrait. And then the material board can be landscape. I can,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
perfect. So I think it's my question is there's no strict, it has to all be in landscape, but we can use our judgment.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Let's see. I will jump to Craig Rossman here. Give me 1 second to unmute you. And you should be good to unmute if you have a question. Craig Rossman, if you want to unmute. Oh, weird. If you want to go ahead and drop your question in the chat, I'll move on to Eddie Reyes, and then we'll get back to your question in the chat here in a second. All right, Eddie, you can go ahead and unmute if you have the question there.
Yes, for the presentation, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Lucas. For the presentation, in order to be evaluated, do you require the complete set or you just the architecture conceptual design?
Yeah, so for the initial submittal, I think that's the second question in the chat there, if these submissions are intended to be permit ready. So at the stage of our design challenge submittal, they don't need to be permit ready. So they can be architectural and conceptual. Just keep in mind that, if selected to move forward, the expectation is that those permit ready plan sets are able to be produced in a reasonable time manner.
Okay, and the second question I have is, can you provide us copy of that presentation you did in order to we can follow up what the information is there?
Yeah,
Would
I
you be
will.
okay?
Yeah, once this presentation's over, I'm going to link a recording to the presentation as well as a link to the presentation itself on the timeline side of the ADU Design Challenge page. So those links will be provided in there.
Last question is just to be clear. We can only apply for one category. It cannot be more than one.
Correct. Yeah. So we're asking each design to select one category that it aligns with most. If you have additional designs, you can select, you can enter that into a different category. But for a single design, we are asking that that you select a single submittal category. And then, like I said, in that narrative, you're more than welcome to kind of explain how you feel that this meets um, multiple categories and meets all of those criteria. Um, but we will ask you to just select one in the application.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Lucas. I appreciate your answer, and I'll wait for your information.
Yeah, thank you. I am going to jump over to the chat. So it looks like Craig posted his question in here. So his question is, the cost to have consultants provide plans for a permit is in excess of the prize money. And how does the city expect, ooh, jumped. How does the city expect designers to account for the cost of design consultants? So there's a few ways that we're looking to reduce costs to designers through this process. The first is through that award money. Excuse me. The first is through that award money. The second is if chosen to move forward to standard plans as a winning design, we will be waiving the standard plan review fees, um, which is based on the valuation of the project. I think when we did numbers for this, it that can be a couple $1,000s of savings. So you won't be expected to pay those plan review fee costs. Um, so those are two of the major cost saving efforts that we're using. The other is that there is the opportunity, this is an opportunity for your plans to get exposure and be listed on our webpage. Again, that licensing fee is capped at $5,000 to ensure that these are relatively accessible and affordable to residents. But we landed on that number because we feel that the exposure, and then you'll be able to charge that licensing fee to each resident that comes in and decides to use your plan. So that's another way you'll recoup some of the cost if selected to move forward. And if you still can't unmute, you'll have to let me know if you have any clarifying questions in the chat. I'm going to jump back to our video, and I'm going to go to Jean Chen. Let me unmute. And you should be able to go ahead and unmute now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, two quick questions. One is I just wanted to confirm that there's no registration process for the competition. And then two, what was the relationship between the jurors that you mentioned and the community vote? Are they both happening, or how does that work together?
Yeah, so I to remind me what the first question was there. Oh, the registration. So
Yeah.
there's no formal registration. There's no cost to register. We just ask that you submit that single PDF that meets all those requirements to that adUcomp@tempe.gov email. Once that comes in, once we start getting submittals, we'll follow up with an email to let you know that it was received, so you're aware of whether it was received or not. But there's no formal registration outside of the submittal email.
Got it. Okay.
And then the question between the relationship between the jurors and the community vote. So there are kind of separate processes going on at the same time. So during that August to September period for the evaluation, the jury is going to be using those evaluation criteria to select their winning designs or provide their recommendations. And at the same time, we're going to provide these plans in an online survey so that the community has the ability to interact with these and have a voice in selecting possibly one of the designs. Ultimately, the final decision is going to rest with our final selection committee, which is an internal group of city representatives, to kind of take what the jury's recommendations were and what came from the community vote, and to make those final selections. So there's no relationship between the jurors and the community vote, but those will both feed into the final selection.
Okay. Got it. Thanks a lot for clearing that up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Looks like we've gotten to Sorry, give me a moment while I scroll through some of these questions. It looks like Kristen Keen had the question. So just further clarification on the cost estimate. So is it something that you should consider hiring a cost estimator to provide? Um, you know, we're not going to dictate and say whether you need to or should hire a cost estimator. I think if this is something that you feel your firm or you individually can reasonably put together, then go for it. If you don't feel that that's something that the firm or the individual has the capacity to do, then it may be necessary to go outside to a cost estimator, but we wouldn't um, require that. Okay. And it looks like there's just some additional questions about the kind of cost associated with submitting the permit ready set. So it sounds like City of Phoenix hosted their contest last year, and their prize was $20,000 for winners to develop their designs into permit ready documents. And concerned about the prize not being sufficient to meet those needs. Um, yeah, I, I'm not 100% certain how Phoenix's competition was designed. I do know that there were entry fees that partially fed back into that, and there may have been less designs that were selected. Um, I think from the city's perspective, we're looking to get a diverse range of accessory dwelling units, and feel that waiving the standard plan fees and offering the award money through the AARP grant, in addition to the opportunity to make licensing fees, while each individual or firm is going to weigh whether or not that is feasible for them. Okay. And then Craig just had, it looks like, a follow-up question about the um, costs to cover liability for each license to residents. Um, yeah, again, that's one of those areas where unfortunately it's going to be down to the individual firm. It may not be feasible to submit if those costs are too high. But we feel that the opportunity to have these listed, on a city webpage, is great exposure and can provide kind of that additional eyes on those projects. But I don't know if anybody else, if Jacob, if you had any other kind of comments on the.
No, Lucas, I think you kind of summed it up. Well, and talking about what other cities have done, there's different nuance that goes into how it's organized. I'm like Lucas was saying, I don't know the details of where City of Phoenix was able to get such a great amount of funding for awarding. But they probably had a lower cap of licensing fee. We did a little bit of research as to other competitions, and the $5,000 cap of the licensing fee is higher than what most other municipalities were limiting that to. The entrance fee as well to enter the competition is something that we're not doing at this point, as a way to try and make sure that we're opening this up to receive as many designs that we could possibly get from our builder community. Just opening the opportunities in different ways. The function of the challenge might be the same, but there's always going to be some differences to how we weigh that. Like Lucas mentioned, waiving of the plan review part of the standard plan review fee as well as an incentive, something that other municipalities didn't do as part of their process. So it's balance for sure. I can't get into the details about what the liability, the insurance for licensing it goes into, but like Lucas said, we feel that we've got um, tons of incentive built into this program to try and make it work out for you.
The next question in the chat is, if a cost estimator or a GC or general contractor isn't involved, how does the city verify construction costs to ensure submittals will meet financial promises that were made by the designers? That's a good question. that may be a question that we need to talk internally about and then get back to you on, unless Jacob has it or Mike, our building safety has official, has any answers to that one. We might have to discuss that one internally before we get back to you.
Yeah, I think there's obviously some variability that could happen between an estimate and what you come up with when you get if selected and coming up with the full construction drawing set. That's to be expected, like some slight deviation. Anything that's pretty major that might go back on, some selection criteria that we looked into as far as cost effectiveness. That kind of goes back to what Lucas was saying. At this point, when you're just getting us something that's conceptual and architectural in nature, just to the best of your ability and through maybe previous projects and buildings to kind of give us the best that you can get at this point in time.
Thanks, Jacob. Looks like I've run out of questions in the chat. I don't see any hands raised. If there is no additional questions, I will go ahead and end the event, stop the recording here in just a moment. If you do have any other questions, again, feel free to email those to adUcomp@tempe.gov, and we're very good about getting back to you in as quick as we can. I'm not sure what the timeline will be, but once this recording is wrapped up, we'll go ahead and post this on the webpage, as well as a list of those FAQs based on some of the feedback we've heard. So if there's no other questions, I want to thank everyone for their time and just encourage you to reach out with any other questions. We're really excited to see what you guys come up with. So thank you.